Welcome to the CPTM Smart Partners Hub. Today, Friday, 20th of November. And this is the third time that we would try to go towards the celebrations on 1st, 2nd and 3rd of December of CPTM and Smart Partners in what we call a countdown. And in the previous Fridays, I have been able to kind of introduce a number of key activities that may take place for all the Smart Partners in the CPTM webs in the Caribbean, Northern America, Southern, Western, Eastern Africa, Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, Europe and UK. So what we're doing today is, as promised, to go further into more details of the Smart Partner think tanking session that is taking place, in addition to further developments in the preparation of the Smart Partners Open House, and of course to introduce again the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Malta that is taking place, and for which the activities of various fora, the People's Forum as is being referred to, will be starting from next Monday. And you would be able to watch on the YouTube the Commonwealth Heads of Government special broadcast for various activities in Malta. And the Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit will take place at the end of the week, but we will be talking about that more next week. I have with me Andrew Taussig, Dr. Taussig. Andrew Taussig is by now no more a new Smart Partner as he refers to himself, but he's a member of the CPTM board alongside Omar, the chairman, and myself, but also he's leading the Smart Partners Link, Media Link, and is part of the Dialogue Resource Group of the Smart Partnership Movement, International Dialogues and Joint Executive Group. So he was able to try to help articulating the various issues which are very complex for the think tanking that is going to take place on 1st, 2nd and 3rd of December. So for that reason he has joined me today, and I like actually to introduce him to bring in not only one or two issues around the spirit of the think tanking, but also, and the celebration of 20 years, but also probably his background, which is probably the most predominant one, having been spent so many years in BBC. So our CPTM Smart Partners 20th Anniversary Broadcasting Program will be launched today for all the CPTM members, all the CPTM Smart Partners webs, with the invitation for you to participate in and in a virtual way. So please, Andrew.
Yes, well, it's a great privilege and a pleasure to be here, and I'd like to begin on this very special occasion to emphasize that we're very keen that this is a series of events for everyone, not just in the hub, but it will be available in a broadcast sense so that people can participate, and there will be a special program laid out for people who are virtually here but are joining in and listening to the webcast and have the chance to respond at all the events. Just to mention, so people can participate in the anniversary session, they can participate and hear what's going on at the annual general meeting, at the awards for the companions, and I take this opportunity to express great congratulations to all those who have been made companions and will be made companions of the movement. That's companions present, future and past.
Yeah.
And also to emphasize that they will be able to participate, most importantly, in the Wednesday session, it's the middle day in the think tanking, and then in the open house and the concluding events on the final day, on the Thursday. So this is a fully broadcast event, and we will put this under the slogan, join with us, you are with us. And indeed, as the British Prime Minister said of the events in Paris addressing people of France, vous êtes avec nous and nous sommes avec vous. And this is the spirit of togetherness, so that people who are joining in through the webcast are really part of the events and can taste and feel the history of the movement and the feelings for the future. I like that phrase, the feelings for the future. So that's what I need to say at this point, Mihaela, just to emphasize the quality of the event, that it's not something surrounded by the walls of the hub, but something which goes beyond the hub.
Yeah. In fact, it's an open hub.
It's an open hub. It's an open house and an open hub.
Yes. And there is obviously an open world, and this smart partnership idea, which emerged in 1995, it emerged not because somebody thought that there is a management scheme or technique of a kind. No, it emerged from within a natural inclination to adapt to various, as you were mentioning to me before, to various events that are taking place.
Well, I think one can actually see a great cause for great pride, because if you look at the immense series of events and trends that have happened over the past 20 years, Smart Partnership has been able to be smart, to be helpful, and has been able to embrace those events and those trends. I mean, just to think of some of the things that have happened as events. You think of the Twin Towers attacks, you think of what's happened in Mumbai, in Madrid, in Paris, in Nairobi, and as we speak today, in fact, in the Malian capital, Bamako. We think of wars in the Middle East, the Arab Spring, and all these things. And then we think of the trends, climate change, the financial crisis, the growing clash of cultures, religions, and civilizations. And in all these things, the smart partners, from their experience and their thinking together, have been able to add something useful and specific, and hopefully during the events that are happening in December, one will be able to capture that.
Actually, one of the reasons why the idea of smart partnership was picked up and interpreted at various times in various contexts by leaders, former leaders and freedom fighters and civil servants with new, is because there was at that time a doom and gloom type of, and people want to feel hope. For that reason, visions and all sorts of other things. So for that reason, the manifesto, the limitless opportunity rather than limits to growth, limits to whatever. But we were talking together that, reflecting for the anniversary, there is this balance between limits and limitless that is very striking, very relevant at the moment. You can't help not, be it digital technologies and the landscape that you don't quite know where and what it is, and you are attracted to get involved into it, to get the opportunities through a cooperative, smart partnership way. But at the same time, you are aware of the limits that you would need to take care of.
Well, it is this balance, I think, Mihaela, of optimism and skepticism. And the movement enables people to go beyond their own individual potentials. Our dear smart partner friend Ashok Jain put it very well, that the movement gives you the courage to move beyond what you might think would be your capacity, but not in an unrealistic way, in a way that is based on professional skill and so on. And I wanted to mention, Mihaela, the special initiatives in the areas of quality and standards, financial inclusion and technological innovation as being things which are really relevant to the long-term trends and which empower people. Financial inclusion, because we live in a world dominated by trade and money, so you need financial inclusion. Quality and standards is so people can have, because they deserve better products, but also, as our friend and colleague Tom de Gregory is always saying, that actually they can trade more competitively in the world markets if they have good products, and so on. So these special initiatives are an example, not at the romantic level, but at the practical level
and not at the technocratic or technical level.
Absolutely. It is, the movement is, I think, so much about the interface between different levels and the interface between people, events and trends,
That's it.
of which the emphasis I think you intend to put on what's going to happen in December with the rise of the web as being a classic example of the way in which individual people and systems interact, creating indeed almost a new nomenclature.
This is.
And
New professions.
one of the things that, you know, as someone concerned with words, it's been said that, you know, language, the limits of language, of our language, are the limits of our world. So in a sense, the web has been the sort of handmaiden of a new language. So it goes very closely together with the history of the movement in the past 20 years. In fact, I can remember President Clinton, who was in office from 1992 to 2000, saying that when he came into office, you could count the websites on the fingers of one hand, and there were thousands and thousands 8 years later. And it's got even more complicated since 2000, when we now have big data and statistics which you can quote, which show unimaginable growth and complexity and strength, which have huge issues, as we know, for privacy, security, and almost everything that we hold dear. So the emphasis on cyber matters, which you're going to place in the think tanking, is kind of an upsum of everything that has been going on, or many of the things that have been going on during the period of the life, and I use the word the life, of the Smart Partnership movement, and we know it will change in the future.
So it's difficult, again, as you said, limits of words. It's difficult to explain what it will become, this focus, because since July this year, and then having been to African Open Data in Dar es Salaam, the first World Bank meeting of Africa on open data strategies, we were trying very much to identify or to put together a landscape of digital opportunity. Now it is very difficult to do that because central bank governors and with leading technologies, including ITU, during the think tank of the central bank governors, we were trying to see if there is a new initiative, special initiative. And it is not actually a new special initiative, because there isn't actually a landscape to explain what it is all about. And because it is so kind of pervasive into standards, into finance, into visions, into statistics, and so on. So for that reason, it will be a very special think tanking this year, with a great responsibility that we don't only focus on the novelties of application of blockchains or new digital applications, big data and so on, but actually we go beyond that, and of the implications both for special initiatives but for any other kind of enforcement partnership, for professions, for networks. And we were thinking that actually the professions particularly, which are going to be kind of reimagined, may give birth actually to new smart partners professional links, So when we were discussing with Ashok about a few weeks ago about the think tanking, his main wish was that, and recommendation was that one should take stock about what is it that we are actually preparing intervention for, what kind of world, because it's a different world, there are new professions. So we can't plan policies and structures as nothing would happen.
But the movement has always been aware that
Yeah.
a change does not destroy what went before, it absorbs it.
That's it.
And we always talked about this combination of tradition and modernity.
Mhm.
And we reacted to some extent against the notion that what is modern is good
Mhm.
and what is old is outdated or primitive,
That's
because we realize that tradition, in the best sense, will continue to feed into modernity. And that balance, but so this is nothing new. So this is not a kind of vindication of the movement,
Yeah.
but somehow it's an expression
Yeah.
of some kind of harmony across time,
Yes, yes,
that what we have been saying are our values, which are against extremism and so on, has a relevance today, and in particular in the context of this discussion.
So for that reason, isn't it, the kind of overall theme, kind of flagship of the whole anniversary, 20th anniversary events, starting with 1st of December in the morning, at 9 o'clock in the morning, up to evening of 3rd, yeah, the whole
Is about the growth.
theme is about why it's called Why Smart Partnership Grows, looking to the limitless, anchoring in reality, and making sense of complexity. Andrew, can you comment
Yeah.
about it?
But
Although you
yeah,
talked
the
about
growth is interesting kind of growth, because it's not the kind of growth about which you beat your breast and say how clever we are. It's the growth which is both very ambitious but also very modest, because it's aware of the complexity of the events and the trends in the context of which we have been growing. So it's a growth which is needs analysing
Yeah,
as we take it forward, and recognizing that it's not just we take it forward, but the outside world takes us. So there's a return to this sense that we are both very confident in some ways and very modest in others, recognizing the complexity of the events which determine our success, but also looking at the past 20 years, one is kind of privileged to be able to contribute to the process.
okay. So this is an overall kind of theme which is being articulated from in various ways, or starting with 1st of December. So on 1st of December, I'm looking at the program which will be sent to you today. In the program, a number of smart partners appear in the usual fashion, informal, and not as giving speeches as usual. We maintain the same dynamics, but as intervening in relation to a particular signal that one of the smart partner might raise, specifically in relation to not an overall topic, but a dimension that needs to be dealt with in depth, not necessarily only by those who are present at the hub, but later on in this new special initiative that will emerge. So among the people that we know, smart partners and members, that they may be here, are obviously from the Caribbean, from Antigua and Barbuda, Diane Rodriguez from Bureau of Standards, the Chief Executive, and Anthea Thomas from, again, Barbados, and Lennox Lewis from Bureau of Standards, Lennox Lewis, CPTM Board of Directors from Trinidad and Tobago, just to name a few from the Caribbean. And then we have within the southern Africa the presence of a number of smart partnership hubs from Swaziland, from Harare, from Namibia, from Botswana, and then from Seychelles, Mauritius, and Tanzania. Obviously, East Africans are also present, and obviously with the Smart Partnership Hub presence from Kampala, from Uganda, where our chairman of the movement, His Excellency President Museveni, is and is coming from, and who will be, I understand, present probably in London, and at a point of time he will join the annual general meeting and the companion celebrations, alongside probably other fellows or fellows emeritus who might be in London. Also from East Africa, as we know, one of the great achievements towards the celebration of 20 years was bringing in the interest and concerns of Rwandan smart partners. So we will have also smart partners from Rwanda, the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry. Obviously we'll have from Asia, from Malaysia, our chairman Tan Sri Roma is from there together with colleagues from there, from Australia, from Mediterranean. Hopefully we will have smart partners present, and obviously from Europe, European Web, from France, and of course from Britain, from UK. So this will be the smart partners kind of will be present, but we hope those virtual presence will also add to this. And already we have a virtual intervention from the chief scientist from Washington of the Government Accountability Office, who is one of our honorary smart partner and member for a number of years by now. I'm very grateful to him, Professor Dr. Tim Pearson. He will make available a few insights from the not yet published new technology assessment for the Congress on big data. And again we will have some virtual input from a new smart partners very well known in backwash movement and security from Canada, David Harris, and so on. And hopefully we will have, as much as we can, bring in our Professor Tom de Gregory, the CPTM Fellow. So here are the participation, roughly, in addition to obviously those who are welcome to our Open Door hub.
I'll just add that
Yeah.
it isn't just sort of 3 intensive days and that's it. As usual, in bringing in people from outside to participate, we hope thoughts will develop and ideas to move beyond that as part of. So yes, nothing makes sense except in terms of continuity. Yeah. So one hopes that the think tanking and everything, not just the think tanking, will stimulate both emotionally and intellectually future things. And that's why I think it's so important, speaking in a kind of broadcast sense, that people who are not physically in the room feel part of the debate, the discussion, the exchange of ideas, and I would add the growth.
Okay. So actually we do need to emphasize how what underpins this statement that we are making, why smart partnership grows.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be, as usual, a number of smart partners reading tips selected and probably the latest, the cutting edge of reading tips and insights, in addition to smart notes, which our Smart Partners Hub team is almost ready, and they will be also made available to those who are not present here, and also on USB sticks as well as in hard copies. So here is a hybrid interactions and hybrid input that we are all trying to put in because of the utmost importance of the various issues that we are dealing with. So if we go a little bit, Andrew, quickly through a bit more in depth in the program, in the agenda, the first part in the morning of Tuesday, 1st of December, rather than being an anniversary kind of emotional and so on, which probably doesn't in itself do anything for even those who've been part of the movement since 1984-85, the first part will be kind of trying to distill the frenziness of the three phases within the CPTM and Smart Partnership movement. And do you want me to articulate, or you would like?
Well, I could just say, I mean,
yeah.
One sees the first phase was really the phase of exploration, when the movement wasn't founded like a state or a country.
Mm-hmm.
The movement came through a mixture of, and Mihaela should really say more about this because she was there in the birth, I wasn't, but it came as part of both institutional and intellectual combination, with a little bit of inspiration there with it.
Yeah.
And
but
then
it was a Caribbean.
And it had very strong beginnings in the Caribbean, which itself is kind of sort of typical for what's been a thread in the movement throughout, the capacity of small countries to pull beyond their weight.
Yeah.
And this applies, you know, with regard to Seychelles, Mauritius, Malta, Cyprus, and so on, Sri Lanka. So this is when you look at what makes things move, whichever ocean, it's very complex, and it's not about size and strength. Mm-hmm. There are different qualities at work. So that was an important part of the first phase. And the second phase we saw really as from after the movement had been set up at the CHOGM Auckland conference. 95. The second phase, 95, was we call it really Malaysia and Southern Africa both played key roles in that, not exclusive roles, but very important roles in that period. And that was kind of when the manifesto, as Mihaela likes to call it, was issued, right? And then the next phase, these are very crude phases, things overlap and go one into another because it's all about continuity. But the next was from 2000 onwards, when we got the special addition and dimension of East Africa, not to the exclusion or cost of the others, but indeed to enhance what we already believed. And it's an important phase to me because that was my first experience of the movement, was in 2001. And well, Mihaela, you take the story on from there.
Okay, let's share the same
paperwork we got here. Yeah,
the same hymn. Well, to actually be able to continue these reflections on the smart partnership, intellectual equity, as we go along through various consents of real-time consents of our members. The CPTM, the Smart Partners Hub, innovated a new mode of doing that, which will be launched through what is called the CPTM Smart Partners Hybrid Reflections. The idea was mooted last year at the AGM, but the actual launch of this initiative is supporting the 20th anniversary, and the CPTM Reflections, Hybrid Reflections, are already populated by a number of smart partners, including our chairman, but hybrid booklet, which is on the web, also has no conclusion. That means there is an invitation for each and every smart partner as we go along, young, old, any part of, to reflect on smart partnership practice as it's able, this practice, to attempt to support the various things that one does.
Can I just add something there, which was, this was also the period of the development of the what we call the 3 special initiatives, which, if you take the analogy of machine tools, this was the kind of sharpening of particular intellectual tools by focusing on certain areas, namely quality and standards, financial inclusion, and technological innovation, which together and individually represent a kind of I think the word anchoring of smart partnership principles in the real world, which is very important, you know, and it is of no value unless it creates value and creates benefit, and therefore the aspirations go back, as our chairman Tan Sri Omar has often said, into the actual application of a consistent policy, which is not just about ideas, but is about delivery in terms of human and material capital. The point is often made. And these 3 areas that we have focused on, using the experience and knowledge of smart partners, who in their different ways know about these things, have been themselves an important phase of the movement, which is continuing.
In fact, although we're not very keen on this, going back to the language, but there is a very obvious, by the way of this CPTM Smart Partners Hybrid Reflections booklet, that is very obvious, this parallel between evolution or evolving of knowledge and know-how. They go hand in hand. And the smart partnership, even more so, the idea of smart partnership emphasizes that.
Yes.
And that is very much a reality. As you said, is the anchoring reality. So
just to make clear that what Mihaela refers to is that several of the founding smart partners, Mihaela will have the book here, have written how they see it at some length.
To start with.
Which means it places, and it's useful for us all to think where the people were at that time, in what personal and professional situation, and in what country, when they first started to think, as they are now continuing to think, about the smart partnership, and to act. I mean, you come back to this professional point that we all here, with the basis of our professional experience, such as it modestly is, but at the same time we don't bring that exclusively into the arena. We have a sort of separate personality as smart partners.
The idea of networks and complexity, which we dealt with for many years, but last year at the AGM we had well-known Professor Yanir, which brought in this making things happen, making things to work through networks, and with some very profound and well-researched and accepted findings. And we'll try to take that forward. So within the, obviously within our images, and including here, you see we have this and this. We have the Baki globe, and we have a globe that is also an innovation, actually moving And we have, of course, the Maltese farmhouse where we tried to understand this network.
Mhm.
That's the reason why it's here, with Professor Serafino Inglot and Noel Zabadami. And we have the Tanzanian expression of smart partnership at the Dar es Salaam. So the networks, yeah,
I like to
not
see it as
simply
different ways
Yeah.
of describing human progress
Yeah,
in terms of the relative roles of individuals and societies. So, man is a social animal,
mhm.
but man is also individual. And I
That's-
think that this
yes.
smart partnership gives a new and constructive slant
Mhm.
on the power of the individual and the power of the group in a rather special way. So when we speak of networks, we never forget that networks are where 6 individuals together are more than 6, they make 12,
That's it.
because they're adding something. But the organization is not there for the sake of it. So we're not into any kind of totalitarian concept. We're into a concept which always respects the individual. Yeah?
Right, and there are some ethics which go along
Absolutely.
with it.
There are
goals and
values,
so on.
yeah,
There are
yeah.
values. But going back to networks, because as you know, I'm always
Quite keen on networks. Yes,
interested
yes,
on
yes.
that, because when one talks about, and again we use a word which is on our list of banned words, delivery.
Mhm.
Is a banned word because you can't deliver except pizza, but you can't deliver
No, no.
things.
Mhm.
But the networks are channels of connections, but also of delivery, inverted comma. And for that reason, the only way you could understand achieving something, rather than just being moving around, is passing cards, saying that's networking, is this understanding of the limits and limitless abilities of networks to work and to interconnect.
Yes.
So we will bring that in, actually, right at the beginning, throughout the 2nd of December, by the way of this understanding the digital opportunities landscape.
And just to put in there that actually digital technology has immensely both enriched and endangered
I suppose
the concept of
accelerated.
networks. It's
Yeah.
accelerated, but it's both enriched
And endangered.
and
Yes.
endangered. Because some people are in networks now and don't know it, and some people are in networks for bad reasons, and some people are in networks to do smart things.
That's it. That's.
But new technology, big data, has introduced the notion, which we need to consider, of smart bad
Yeah.
as well as smart good. And this is, I think, one of the most
Yeah.
explosive, potentially, and I use that word metaphorically, but it also has a physical connotation,
There is.
explosive concepts.
There is, Andrew, just because you are so you put a lot of thought into words which express what otherwise we can't express. There is a dimension which I'm going to state it now, and probably we shouldn't discuss it because then we're having the think tanking already. But in this way, we hope all those who are kind of able to watch this webcast would be able already to start getting into the mode of the think tanking by the time you come to the hub.
To share
to
the,
the hub.
yeah.
There is an observation that, particularly because of this digital landscape that we're trying to define for ourselves, that in fact the Bucky ball, as we call it, a Bucky globe, is actually a 3-dimension thing. Yeah? And the kind of things that are taking place are multidimensional. And a mathematician would tell you that, therefore, what we are talking about this making sense of complexity and all the rest of it, is no more or is beyond the Bucky globe. So I think the new phase is beyond the Bucky globe. So that is where we need to define what is it then? How do we deal with these networks which interacts in multidimensional way? which they always did, but is more obvious now because of the digital opportunities and challenges. So that is actually the main preoccupation.
What you said
in
reminded
the-
me of something.
yeah.
They always said that actually the nearest thing to pure philosophy is either pure mathematics or pure physics.
Well,
And
yeah.
that's when we think what we are about, whether it is humanities
yeah,
or sciences, it's actually both.
that's it. That's
And
the
these
problem.
two
But-
areas are much closer than some of them realize.
or either the mathematician or the realized
or the pure
pure sciences. Yeah, we will have quite a number of new kind of intervention and new smart partners. Hopefully, they will continue to be part of us later. People who have been engaged for a number of years and responsible with foresights and horizon scanning, but foresights in the, for instance, chief scientists of UK government. We will have people who are concerned with the reform or the review of the statistics from the National Statisticians Office and from OECD, the Statistics Division, due to the digital interventions. And obviously we would have a discussion on disruptive innovations and network systems. And above all, I suppose we would try to focus a bit more in detail into this digital impact on governance, and we will do that with a very great intervention and input from our smart partners in the British Standard Institute, who will demonstrate that they are not first and foremost preoccupied with standards. They are first and foremost preoccupied to understand the kind of issues that are arising, for instance, within the financial technology, fintech, or the application of blockchains, and to see where standards might be useful if there is a problem. So we're very grateful to BSI team for this year to pull together a number of resource material, but also specialists in this area. Again, it shows that there is an interaction between technology.
And that word disruptive you use, disruptive is both good and bad.
Could be, yes, yes,
You need to disrupt to improve,
yeah.
but you shouldn't disrupt for the sake of it. Maybe, but that's a good. It's a very challenging word, disruptive.
Disruptive and disrupting.
Yeah.
But
Very challenging word.
I was told yesterday when I was trying to brief one of the new smart partner to explain why do I use disrupting and disruptive. So I suppose we will do that explanation during the think tank.
But we'll expect smart partners to come up with their own interesting ideas about.
I mean, all these things would not make sense to be brought up, highlighted, unless they are grounded in reality. So that's the only reality meaning of the preoccupation of every day or issues that are being have to be dealt with, and those issues that are being dealt with then therefore are going to be which are of a concerns and urgent issues are going to be dealt with next day into a typical traditional open house, and for which I would like to thank already to a number of smart partners from Swaziland and Botswana who noticed the deadline, which was yesterday 19th, for announcing their concern which they are going to discuss, to try to get a sounding board advice from those present here. And I would like all the smart partners who are going to come to the hub, but also those who are not coming, to send to the CPTM Smart Partners Hub team feedback on their concerns. It's quite difficult to identify on the spot an urgent issue which makes the best of the great intellectual equity that you have here available. So it does require time to think through and choose together with your colleagues which would be the issue, urgent issue, concrete, that you want to bring it to the table so that it's being discussed and you get feedback, and then you continue to be in touch with the group. So do please, by next week, before you get in the plane, send your own, select and send your own urgent concern, which represents your own team's concerns where you're working. So that will be the Thursday. There will be obviously celebrations are manifested into a toast, so there will be a toast to the companions and to the 20 years CPTM members and smart partners and directors and the chairman who have been so much guiding and hands-on for the last 20 years. So that will be on obviously first day, and that will be followed by another celebration of smart dance with a smart mulled wine, etc., and smart music on Wednesday evening. And I don't think we are short of imagining what other celebration we want to have while we are dealing with substantive issues in a very short time. So today we have been dealing with a bit more in detail with the think tanking session with the help of Dr. Andrew Tausig, who was part and parcel of preparing and articulating these very complex issues for this anniversary, as well as preparing together with our smart communication unit a very special broadcasting program, which our hub will be again sending today with the various web links that you will be able for each and every session to attend to wherever you are. And so the only other thing that remains to me at the moment is from our company secretary, the CPTM company secretary, a request that the annual general meeting, which will take place on 1st of December from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock, does require, is essential, does require your feedback if you are not able to be here by latest next week, Wednesday. So do please send your nominations for proxies, that if you are a networking member or a public-private sector member or a government member. So this reminder will be sent again by our smart communication team also to all of you, but you did have enough time, I suppose, and I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't receive more proxies, but I'm sure everybody is preoccupied with what is happening nowadays. So for that reason, we'd like very much to make sure that the process of the AGM goes smoothly, and it will only go that way if we have proxies from those who are members in various categories. So with that, thank you very much and have a nice weekend. We'll do it as a final countdown next Friday. And all the best.